Okay, I'm going to try and make this short and sweet and direct. Okay, so here we go. The biggest challenge we have, the biggest challenge each and every single soul has, is its inability to accept its own suffering. The shame, the guilt, the anger, the resentment from which we see the world, our inability to accept that that is the very thing we need to treat, to heal, to become aware of. That is the number one cause for all our suffering, for all our inability to connect, to heal, to bring a better world. Instead of accepting, what the ego does is it protects us. It tells us that it's someone else. It tells us that it's because of that reason. It tells us it's everything else, every single thing else except us. And as long as we are operating from the ego, from the denial, from the unwillingness to accept that the very, very one thing in this world that needs healing, that needs its shame to be addressed, its anger to be addressed, is you, you can never move forward. I speak from not just my experience as a coach and what I see, but my own journey. For most of my life, up to this point, I always believed that I lied, I cheated, that I treated other people a certain way because either I was wanting to be a good guy or because I didn't want to accept that I was to blame, that I needed to heal me. So I suffered. It was always someone else. They had to change. It was because of them that I was feeling what I was feeling. And if only they changed, I wouldn't feel what I'm feeling. Now I come to realize, how crazy was that? How crazy? Where did I need to stop with manipulating each and every person so that I didn't have to take responsibility for me? And each time I tried to do that, I induced more and more suffering. I was in denial. I was in denial that the very person that needed healing, the very person that needed compassion, was the angry part of me, was the part of me that carried shame, was the part of me that carried guilt. That's who needed the healing. That's who needed the compassion and the love and the forgiveness. But I didn't know how to do that. I didn't even know how to I wasn't even aware that I was the one carrying the emotions. So you needed to change so that I didn't feel what I felt. You needed to be nicer so that I didn't deal with the fact that rejection was painful for me. Don't abandon me, because then I have to deal with my abandonment wounds, and that's your fault. And I did all these things to hold on to things that were unhealthy. And then you get this label of being a certain way, toxic, wounded. Or because that little boy I didn't know how to hold a little boy inside of me and say, hey, you're suffering, and it's my job to take that away, to heal that, to address it. It's a wonderful place to see that, but I've come to realize it's the hardest thing to do, to accept the ugly, shameful, dark parts of us. Who wants to do that? It's so much easier to believe it's someone else, right? Because taking responsibility of that, and I've seen with my own journey, it can evoke a lot of suffering. That you did all these things, you felt all these things. And I don't want to get too emotional, but it's really hard, but it's so liberating. It's so liberating. That the very person that needs love is you, and forgiveness is you, and the anger and the shame and the guilt is not anger and shame and guilt once you accept it. So here's a challenge. Write down every single little thing that you are angry about, sorry about, guilty about, shameful about. Every little thing in your life that you can remember that we can use other people, use relationships to help the list. Where did you find suffering? Where did you find pain? Because that is some way that will give you an indication of what you're carrying in you. And when you've written this list down, accept it. Accept that that is in you, and that's from you, and that's yours. And then wash over it with love. Open your heart to it and see that I love these things in me because they are not my fault. There's nobody's blame or fault here. But this is to accept the darkness, to incorporate it, rather than to believe it's a part of us. That's denial. Bring it in, bring it home, and see what that does for you. There's no shame in asking for help. It's actually one of the most courageous things we can do is ask for help. I am suffering and I'm tired of my unknown hurting me. So let's explore the unknown. Let's incorporate the darkness. Let's take responsibility for what we have probably not taken responsibility for our whole lives. It's wonderful. It's transformative. Try the challenge, see what it brings you. And if you need any support, ask for help. It's the most amazing thing you can do, even if there's so much vulnerability attached to it. I'll keep it short. Sending you love and so much beauty wherever you are. There is another way, and there is a better way.